Hi everyone, I'm Daise. I am an occupational therapist in early intervention, short for EI. I work for the Cuyahoga of the D, and I live in Lakewood, Ohio. I feel fortunate to serve the community where I live, the west side of Cuyahoga County. I work with infants and toddlers from 0 to 3 years old, and as a pediatric OT, I help children reach their milestone through a play-based therapeutic approach using the coaching model. The EI program is a fantastic opportunity for children to learn in their natural environment, primarily their home, but also in the community. I have done numerous visits in the library, parks, playgrounds, daycares, and stores. Yes, grocery stores. At times, it doesn't even feel that I'm working, which makes a fulfilling profession. This model is backed by research on the basis that children learn best in the natural environment through their daily routines. On a personal note, I enjoy working with infants and toddlers. I feel innately motivated by seeing little ones reach their milestone. I enjoy the light bulb moment of when a child figures out to roll, to reach for a toy, or learn to sit up on her own with a good balance, and of course, takes the very first step without support. It is extremely rewarding to see parents empowered with the strategies that will nurture those accomplishments. It brings lots of smiles, and as we all know, smiles and giggles are contagious. I get to laugh a lot. I feel rewarded with my family happiness, which leads me to share a lovely story. I'm here today to share a story of how the benefits of infant massage impact my practice and the lives of families that I have the pleasure to coach. Well, in the ideal perfect world, mom and dad are in love and life together is so beautiful that they decide to grow and add a new member. And boom, they get pregnant. They announce their pregnancy on Instagram, Facebook, all the media outlets. They throw a gender reveal party and have a lovely baby shower and plan every little detail of the nursery carefully. Thoughtfully think of a name. They are excited and often anxious with every OBGYN appointment, totally looking forward because they enjoy hearing the heartbeat. And of course, the most important of all, and then I believe that everyone here can relate with this, what we look in every doctor appointment is for the doctor to say, everything looks okay. That's the picture of the ideal world. In contrast, we have an undesirable but common reality where mom is dependent of opioids or other types of illicit drugs. Drugs used to numb or soothe a pain, and at times it is an emotional pain, not only physical. It can be a helpless feeling of hopelessness in which she finds that the only solution is another dose. Often mom tries to quit using opioids, especially when she learns that she's pregnant. Please keep in mind that often the addiction started from using a legit prescription drug, which leads to mom becoming addicted. Once you're addicted, it's a very hard thing to quit. And there are so many barriers that makes it even harder. There are relapses, and often relapses leads mom to abandon prenatal care. At times, the treatment is a controlled dose of opioids, which can also lead to a newborn being born with withdrawal syndrome. Some moms are afraid of seeking any type of prenatal care because they fear getting in trouble with the law and they will continue using opioids. And that's the story of a little Charlie. Grandma received a call from a social worker with DCFS. In the call, she learned for the very first time that she was going to be a grandma again. She was asked if she can be her grandson's caregiver because he was in custody of the county. Whenever a child is born addicted and is placed in foster care, they always need to look for a close relative to watch out for the baby or the child. Well, Charlie was born, and right on his first hours of life, he tested positive for opioids and THC, which is pot. He was immediately placed into the foster care system. It was just for the time being while mom underwent detox, parental classes, and other requirements prior to being reunited with her son again. Grandma was also told that her grandson was born addicted and needed to stay hospitalized to undergo withdrawal for a couple of weeks. In the meanwhile, in a matter of a week or two, Grandma preps the house for a newborn. and she undergo background check and learn everything she can about caring for NAS infant. NAS stands for Neonatal Abstinence Syndrome, which was childhood diagnosed. For CDC's tests, per every 1,000 births, 7 babies are diagnosed with NAS, which means that for every 19 minutes, one baby is born with NAS. Babies with NAS can be born with low birth weight, difficult to soothe due to dysregulation. They just have a huge hard time with the interact with the environment and anything of the environment. Processing all the stimulation is very hard for them. That leads to sensory issues. They may have a high pitched cry, tremors, difficulty with feeding, and to gain weight, difficulty with regulating their own body temperature. They may have vomiting, diarrhea, low muscle tone or high muscle tone, and sensitive reflexes. It is very important for caregivers caring for a NAS baby to be educated on the common withdrawal symptoms and behaviors. It is also very helpful for the relationship of a baby and caregiver if a caregiver have a good social support network to provide respite when needed, because NAS babies tend to cry a lot more than typical newborns. They also have difficulty with falling asleep and staying asleep. That's when the good support system is important to give the primary caregiver a little break to catch some well-deserved sleep. To restore, sleeping is also very important for baby, especially for the development of a baby's brain. A baby with a good sleep and waking cycle is also a baby who has learned to habituate to her or his environment. It is one of the very first self-regulating skills. Well, little Charlie had a difficulty adjusting to his environment. In fact, little Charlie was a textbook example of most of the symptoms that I listed. He was hard to soothe and cried a lot. Thankfully, Grandma had a couple of retired neighbor friends who enjoyed rocking little Charlie to sleep during the day. But through the night, she had to do it all on her own. Charlie also had the typical tremors, and those tremors were even more visible when he cried. He also had a high muscle tone, which is called hypertonia. Charlie had stiff limbs and was very noticeable during diaper change, bathing, and dressing. He had projectile vomiting, also due to reflux, and for that reason, he had to stay upright after every feeding. Even at times, the way he got fed was like upright, not in cradle position. He did not like cradle at all. He also had the typical high pitched cry, and it was very difficult for him to fall asleep and stay asleep. I started seeing him when he was about 10 weeks old. We discussed about having him in a low stimulation environment. We talked about swaddling, kangaroo care, which was putting Charlie on the chest, skin to skin contact to help with the body regulation attachment. And we talk about rocking. Charlie, like I said, he hated cradle rocking. He only liked upright, vigorous, rhythmic bouncing. It was a workout for Grandma. He was very specific on how he wanted to be soothed. I taught Grandma infant massage, and after the very first week doing only feet and legs, he was right off the bat starting to sleeping better. Sleeping was the first noticeable benefit. And by the time we completed the fourth week, he was asleep for 7 to 8 hours. And Grandma was very happy. For a NAS baby, 8 hours of sleep is fantastic for both baby and caregiver. She did not mind at all that he was waking up once a night around 3 or 4 in the morning and going right back to sleep after the bottle. So we're adding, so he's sleeping 7 to 8 hours, waking up 3 or 4, and he sleep another 3 hours, 3 to 4 hours solid. This is fantastic. And then also a huge contrast from waking up literally every other hour. As an OT, I noticed that he was less stiff. Well, in the perspective of infant development, less stiffness and better regulated it is equivalent to a better tolerance with the environment, with the challenges. So now this baby was able to tolerate tummy time and the challenging positions that I would show Grandma during the EI visits. He was better regulated at all. I mean, like with his entire environment. He was then crying less, engaging more with the drama, and there were many more opportunities for joint attention, which is very important for social emotion development. The exchange of looks and nurture interaction, followed by baby giggles. My goodness, an infant giggle is way more desirable than a high pitched crying. Grandma was doing feet massage religiously every night and sometimes 2 times in a day. They both enjoy the nurturing interaction promoted by the joint attention and the loving strokes that provide the proprioceptive input, which is a term that we use when we squeeze. We have proprioceptive cells throughout our entire little body, and those are so welcome in child development because that's how kids they would thrive. So the daily strokes not only help the child to self-regulate, to adjust better to his environment, it also helps bonding and attachment. Infant massage promotes emotional intelligence through early caregiver and baby nurturing touch and interaction. Charlie hit all his gross motor and fine motor and adaptive, which is his ability to self-soothe and you know, eat and sleep and cooperate with the dressing and his social emotional milestones on his own time. By the time he was 12 months old, he was developing almost at the same pace as his peers. By 18 months, he was doing very well in all domains of development and slightly ahead for communication. He was a talkative toddler. Charlie is now a preschooler and he was reunited with mom around his second birthday. Mom has been clean since then, since I heard, and he spends the weekends with the grandma and he's doing great. I hope you all have enjoyed my story. Have a good day.